All right. So it's March 4th, 2021, and this is the administrators or the CTAT Roundtable. Any stakeholder can be here, of course, doesn't have to be an administrator, but welcome. And of course, we started these as COVID response, but since that time, we're still calling them the COVID response roundtables, but a lot more topics are coming up in transit, especially transitioning into the legislative period. I've already hit that record button, Miss Murr, so good thing I had that slide in there. And so here we go. It's time for another roundtable, and the stars have all gathered. And Gene Rayburn there says that he's in favor of it. So if Gene Rayburn likes it, I like it. Richard Dawson says that when we're here, we're going to get answers to wild questions. And of course, the first thing he had on his little blue card there was CTAT. Thank you, Richard. Good publicity there. Then we get in, we say that here in Max Game, the celebrities are all gathered and working together. And of course, that's you as Career Tech Director. You're the true celebrities, especially with this roundtable and what you provide to each other. Not booze. Betty White put booze. We're not having booze, Betty White. So don't expect any of that here at the roundtable. But since this is the COVID support and guidance, it's been a month or two since we've had anything that really relates to CTAT. So, but we did have a new development the other day, and here it is. On March 2nd, Governor Abbott issued Executive Order GA 34, which addressed the statewide wearing of mask coverings, and it takes effect next Wednesday, March 10th. And TEA's authority to implement operational requirements for public school systems remain in effect. And so the governor's issue did not necessarily override what TEA has been putting in its health guidance. As a result of lifting the order on masks, though, the school boards, a public school board can come in there and set their own requirements. And so as a result of lifting the order on masks, TEA has updated its local public guidance, and under the updated guidance, a public school system's current practices on masks may continue unchanged. Local school boards have the authority to determine their local mask policy. So if the school board does nothing, then the mask requirements at school are still in place. And TEA has also made updates related to surface cleaning requirements. And if you go to the update site, when you go to the COVID update, then what you'll see is the public health guidance planning document that looks like this. And the newest guidance is available for March 4th. And that just talks about the mask requirements for masks, and it talks about the surface cleaning requirements. The student attendance and enrollment, I checked that again today. There hasn't been an update on attendance and enrollment. So what has been in place since January 14th was the latest update that is still in place. We encourage you, like you have been being, because when I listen into these COVID roundtables, I know that you guys have all taken on those leadership spots in your district and that you are the experts. And I encourage you to stay on top of the guidance and read those to the administrator's address when they come out, and make sure that you know as much as anybody in your district, and don't rely on the guy sitting next to you in the administrator meetings to know exactly what he's talking about. Updates other. One thing that I wanted to mention is that the programs of study, those frameworks that are on the TEA website, which are incredible documents, they're available and they've been updated. They include a lot of the innovative courses that have been completed. The programs of study, if you'll click on, if you go there, then you can find those frameworks documents that you have the ability also to edit. And what I encourage you to do is when you're editing those documents, never add anything, because if you add a class that's not that, then they're not in the approved program of study. But what you can do in there, what's most beneficial, is to go in those frameworks and delete what you're not teaching, and then you have a great document and a piece of support material to provide to student parents and guidance people. Also, the way that you keep up with TEA is you go in there and you can sign up for their listservs, and you would just email and put your email address in, and then pick the categories that you want. I encourage all of you to make sure that you apply for the career and technical listserv, and to make sure that you apply to the administrator address, and don't necessarily count on the superintendent's office providing you with those emails. As far as CTAP programming, of course, we have the next gen administrators that are going on, and Robin has been providing legislative updates for most of the roundtables, especially not so much now, but especially when there's a lot of information out there. But the next gen administrators just went through and they had a legislative process, and Robin really opened their eyes about the how lobbying was impacted and how advocacy occurs through CTAT. The new CTE Teacher Academy is still going on. Our COVID roundtables. The Summer 21 conference is just around the corner. And of course, we're still doing program assessments and program evaluations for districts that contact us. Make sure that you subscribe to the CTAT YouTube channel. Any open session like this is always recorded and posted on the CTAT YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and hit that bell. That way you get notified. The Summer 2021 conference, Jimmy sent an email from Granbury asking about the dates. I had to go back and double check, but it's July 26th through the 29th is the currently scheduled date, and currently registration is scheduled to be open in April 2021. And you know that CTE programming, classroom management, curriculum resources, college and career guidance, and business and industry partnerships are just some of the many topics that will be addressed at the Summer 2021 conference. And of course, Gene comes back to us and he says, "Dumb Dora was so dumb, she missed the blank." And Brett Summers says, "Howard Cosell show." I don't guess that was right. But here we go. Charles comes in with the correct answer. She missed the actual roundtable part of this roundtable series. Thank you, Charles. And now I'm going to, before we hit it, I don't think we have a whole lot, but I'm going to stop sharing and see what Robin wants to talk about as far as the legislative update.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Yes, okay, great. Okay, so as Mark mentioned, now that the governor has eliminated the mask mandate and is reopening Texas, you know, at 100% capacity starting next week, I'm hoping at some point in the conversation today that we hear from you and what that means for your district and your communities. So, so definitely want to hear from you about that. So just really briefly, there's not a whole lot happening yet at the Capitol, and I'll tell you why. It'll make sense when you hear what they're dealing with for logistics. But so we expect that today, if it hasn't come out yet, Commissioner Morath will likely announce his plan to hold districts harmless for the loss of students this spring. And so we don't know if it's going to be a case of ISDs are going to receive funding that will be less and reflect current enrollment figures. We don't know if that funding will be tied to child find efforts or if it'll just be hold harmless based on previous enrollment. So, so look for information about that to come out this afternoon if it hasn't already. So House Pub Ed, they met March 2nd for the first time this session. And keep in mind, like we're already at halftime. We're about to head into the third quarter of session. But Morath provided a state of public education address. And here's the good news for us. On slide 31, he actually made reference to the issue that we brought to the attention of the agency and lawmakers, is the fix for the innovative and P-TECH early college high school models that are following the college meeting schedule, where they're not meeting for the minimum required instructional minutes to get weighted funding. So it looks like if the commissioners bring it up in committee and we've made everyone aware, we're looking forward to seeing that fix in the House Bill 3 cleanup bill. So that is good news for us. The Senate Education, we don't know when they'll start meeting. If it's not next week, hopefully it will be the week after. So for the House Bill 3 cleanup bill, that's going to be carried by Representative Huberty on the House side and Senator Larry Taylor on the Senate side, which I just got to point out is interesting since Huberty is no longer the chair of public education, but he's still a member of the committee. But the chair is Harold Dutton and decided to allow Huberty to be the lead author on that bill. And the reason I bring that up is because Huberty's been very supportive of CTE programs. So that's another positive in our favor. He helped us out, you know, in the 11th hour of last session on our indirect cost spending requirements. So he was instrumental in assisting us. So bill filing deadline is next week on Friday. So that is the last day to have bills go through Legislative Council and be assigned a bill number in order to be filed. And just to share about the logistical hurdles they're facing, since again, it's like past halftime, we're going to the third quarter and they have yet to hear any bills. It means they're going to hear very few of them, very, very few bills. So the calendars committees are being instructed to set very few. And I think Marty suspects that they're going to start doing what we call themed hearings. So for example, you wouldn't hear one bill on CTE one week and a different bill on CTE the next week. Like if they're going to address public school accountability in a hearing, all the bills related to that that are going to be heard will be a part of that hearing. So they'll organize in that way. We never have the luxury of time when we see the bills that are posted for committee hearings. So for the House, they are typically posted the Friday before the next week that they're going to be heard. Senate Education Committee can wait until Monday of the week they want to hear bills to let you know what they're going to hear. So another logistical hurdle. So within the Capitol, there are very few meeting rooms that are large enough to accommodate these large committees like public education, and in particular, the ones that have a lot of witnesses and people coming to testify. So they're in the largest rooms. So the largest committees have to share these rooms at the Capitol. So what that means is they've got to compress meeting time. There's no such thing anymore for House Pub Ed meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting at 8:30 a.m. and going till 2 in the morning. Nope, not going to happen. So they're going into their designated meeting room on Tuesdays only from 8 to noon. That's finished by noon. By the way, the House could actually and be in session for a couple hours during that time. So the committee would adjourn, go to the House, and then come back. And they have to be out of the hearing room by noon to give the staff time to fumigate and clean it out before the next committee comes in at 2. So if you got 4 hours, 1 day a week, and you've got thousands of bills, I think what they're going to hear is to be very selective. Additionally, they're not going to want 4 people to testify on a single bill. They will most likely do invited testimony or ask organizations to put in a card indicating support, opposition, or just on a bill. There may be ways to get our legislative agenda accomplished even without testimony. So it just depends if it's germane to the bill and we have agreement to get it added on when it goes to the chamber floor. That is a possibility if it's been heard in committee, even if it's heard for 1 minute, 60 seconds, it keeps it moving. So we'll keep you posted on that. And then for anyone who's wanting to go to the Capitol, so it's a lot easier to meet with people on the House side because they don't require temperature checks, they don't require a COVID check. The offices of the Democrats want you to wear a mask. The offices of the Republicans could care less if you wear a mask. And currently on the Senate side, they are requiring you to have a COVID test and a temperature check before entering the Capitol building to talk or to meet with any staffers on the Senate side or to enter a hearing room. So, and those rules can change. So it's good to check before you head that direction. But again, we're going to be limited on our ability to provide testimony. And so it may be a case where if we have lead time and we can get somebody ready, great. The closer the better to the Capitol. I'm looking at you, Sherry Bonds. But otherwise, I think we can get this done. Either I can testify or we can put in cards of support. We'll do our homework to find out where that bill stands with committee members and how much of an effort we need to get that passed out of the committee. So Senate Education will meet on Thursdays from 8 to 12. And so I mentioned those hearing times because you can watch them virtually. They are all broadcast, so you can see exactly what's happening. I can share, once I stop talking right here, I can pull the link where you can access the broadcast recordings, and also where you can set up alerts to know what the committee is going to be talking about that week. So you can look and see what's on the agenda. So one of the questions I got a little earlier today was about giving testimony. Will it be accepted by Zoom, or do you have to come in person? They really want you to come in person if you're able. And they will make exceptions for Zoom if the person's not able to attend, but their preference is that if you're going to testify, you come in person. But just like I said, if they only meet for 4 hours, you might not get to. So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, you know, who's really wanting to come and testify. It may or may not actually work out. But so that's what we know for now. And I am happy to entertain any questions. And again, like I said at the beginning, I'm really curious to hear how the rollback of precautions is impacting your district and your community. So I see in the chat. Thank you, Sherry. Awesome. I'll pay for your parking. And yes, letters can be used for testimony. And we can do that a couple of ways. Here's what I would recommend. If there's a bill and you want to provide testimony on that bill, go ahead and start drafting it now. Your thoughts between now and then are probably not going to change. Just get it done. Because if we tell you you have 24 hours to turn it in, you have 24 hours to turn it in. So start working on that now. And share it with the office of the author for the bill, because they get to lay out the bill in the committee. But I'm not sure where that testimony will land if you just send it in by email. But if you send it to me, we can actually print a copy and physically hand it to the committee clerk so that it is entered into the record. So I recommend doing those two things. So any other? I'll stick around in case we have additional questions.
Robin, I went ahead and posted the live stream links. Okay, back in the gallery view. Is there anyone that would like to kick us off with a question? I have I saw that Lindsay sent out, I think it was Lindsay sent out a news article to A-Leaf, and they were doing stipends for teachers getting tested. Is that right, Ms. Crow? She may have stepped away. Is anyone else offering any type of incentive for teachers to become vaccinated with the COVID vaccine?
Hey, Mark, it's Tracy from Pflugerville. I was going to put it in chat, but apparently my keyboard just died. We are. Our board approved a one-time $500 stipend for PPE that every full-time employee will get, and $250 for part-time employees. And they also approved a $100 stipend for employees who get the COVID vaccine.
What was the first stipend you said they received, Tracy?
They're calling it a PPE stipend.
That's a pretty good deal. And let's see, I think I saw something from ATPE that they sent out that teachers are now top priority as far as receiving the vaccine. So that should move all the teachers and educators up the timeline pretty quick. Ms. Tenney from San Saba said their district is offering free vaccinations. I I assume that's at the district, but no monetary. Who else has something?
Mark, I got a question about the Texas Gateway courses. We're having a PD day right after spring break on March 22nd, and we want our CTE math and CTE science teachers to complete that gateway, those Texas Gateway courses. And after looking at them, like, I got two questions. One, I've read the stuff on the like, what are you doing? What is everybody else doing to prove completion of those courses? And on the other thing is what kind of systems are in place just to keep that teacher from clicking to the end and taking a picture of the very last slide that says you've completed this? What are other people doing with the Texas Gateway stuff?
Cal, that's a great question. I haven't seen one of those classes in a couple of years, but it seems like there's a test at the end, and when you finish, there's a certificate that they print.
Well,
Does anyone have any experience with that recently?
Yeah,
Oh,
so Alito ISD, we just did it with a science teacher, and there was 0 at the end. Wasn't anything, no certificate anymore. So I just kept his email as proof. I wasn't sure what else to do.
Debbie Whelan said yesterday, and I'm not sure if they posted it or not, she said there's not certificates right now but I think they had outlined some process in terms of like taking a screenshot. And so that's probably what I'll do at the end, is have a screenshot that shows some kind of completion. I have not taken one in so long that I don't remember, to your point, Kyle, about them clicking through it. So I guess at a certain point, we just trust that they're doing it, but I think you're going to have to do screenshots.
So we use those courses for our certification program. So they went down in February, and there's not as a no of an intention of bringing them back because they're moving it to a different platform instead of Gateway. So that was my understanding, because work-based learning is something we use, and so we had to create our own. And so really there's nothing, like they can click right to the end of it and see the end. So what we did for our work-based learning course is we created a note sheet. You know, it's time consuming, but at least that's an accountability piece on our end.
You're talking there's 3 different things. There's one for science, it's 2 parts. There's one for math, that's 2 parts. Those are the ones they still have to use, and you have to just screenshot the end and hold it locally if they are either a science or a math teacher or a CTE teacher. That's one of the things that there was a lot of confusion on. Doesn't matter which side they come from. If they're teaching a class that results on a transcript as science or math credit, whoever's teaching it has to do that. They only have to do it once. They don't have to redo it each year, but you have to hold locally, and the only thing you can hold is the screenshot. The work-based learning is a little bit different. They have the old one posted on the TEA CTE website, but it's all aligned to Perkins 4. There's tons of things in it that are not current, but pretty much every ESC is offering those trainings. You just have to look to see when they're scheduled in your region.
thank you all for that. That's kind of the screenshot, taking the pictures. That was pretty much what we had already heard, but we were just wondering if anybody was doing anything different.
sounds like your best chance, Kyle. David is asking about the teacher incentive allotment. And of course, several of you have already responded to his question on chat. But does anyone have anything really innovative or super easy, might even be better, that you're working as far as CTE teachers for the teacher incentive allotment?
If you're including CTE teachers, my main concern is, what are you using for the student growth measures? If you put that in there, I'd appreciate it.
This is Vonnie Anderson from Big Spring High School. And we are using, I put it in the chat, but we are going to be doing pre-test and post-test that are related to the courses that have industry-based certifications. Not all of our CTE classes will be able to fall into the the TIA grant, but that's how we're going to measure growth, is to do a pre-test at the beginning of the same content they would probably have to test towards the end. And then once they achieve that IBC, then that's showing growth that they accomplished what was supposed to be done in that class.
David, this is just 2 cents, but I think I would also include in there the number of concentrators and completers that are coming from the area the program area that the teacher is involved with, simply because as we go over the next few years, and if we're supposed to be offering the programs of study and getting concentrators and completers, then we ought to see that number grow over the next 3 or 4 years. And not only is it something we should see, but it should be a fairly easy indicator for the teacher to obtain.
So David, A-Leaf has just started the process, and we've been at the table. They've hired a consultant that's consulting them on all of the other contents, but doesn't seem to have much help for CTE or other electives. So we're kind of building it as we go. We have delayed it another year before we're going to do it. So we're not next year straight off the bat, but that's kind of where we are. And I know that this is going to be a topic of discussion tomorrow at our Area 6 GCCTA meeting as well. So I can share back with you on whatever, if anybody from that group has done any more research or work on it.
I appreciate that, Kimberly. Yeah, let me know what y'all decide. I'm just looking for examples across state. We're also going to pilot it next year. I think we're going to do a planning year. We're not going to include CTE next year, but
we were in our planning year this year. We were in our pilot year planning year this year. And because of COVID, we decided to delay that till next year. So it's bought us, and no CTE was involved. So it's bought us a little bit more time. We have some concerns, about doing the IBCs, or, because what about those first level programs? So we've looked at like how many of somebody mentioned their students, how many of them are going on to concentrators, and how many of them are going on to the next level might be built in. Our district wants the decision, like whatever is decided, that the teacher would know when they finish their year. Well, so many of the certifications aren't given till May, but you have your summative evaluation complete in April. So it's like, how can we change the calendar of something so that certification, if we decided in our upper level courses to do the certifications, that they were included. So these are a lot of the questions we have also.
David, have y'all considered, because you have such a well-developed, your whole process for teacher excellence, are y'all thinking about including that somehow?
yes, we are on the teacher growth side. We are, but on the student growth, we haven't decided yet. Is there anybody out there using precision exams? Because that's what we're looking at. We've used them for a couple of years, and they are, nobody has submitted that, so they don't know. But our district thinks they would definitely be approved because they're aligned to national standards. The problem is you got to line them to Texas TEAGs, and so. Anyway, I was just wondering if anybody out there was using that or planned on using that.
David,
That's kind of the way we're going.
I think Celine is using that in Northwest. I don't know if they're going to use it for TIA, but I think she started using that a couple of years ago. You might reach out to her directly.
Who is that?
Celine Broswell at Northwest ISD.
Okay, thank you.
David, also that group at Precision Exams is pretty aggressive, and if they could, if it was financially viable for them, I'm sure they would change the test if enough districts got on board.
We've already asked that, Mark. Yeah, and they'll do a lot for you, but now they're they were a small company, now they got bought out by whoever it is, and so they're a big conglomerate now, and I think. But I'll tell you what, Mark, if you sit down and start writing tests for CTE, you probably make some money with this TIA thing.
You got to be smarter than the freshman to write the test, though. I'd have to get somebody else.
Yeah.
So for Santaba ISD, we have a, can you guys hear me? Okay, so we have a CNA program that's credentialed through the state of Texas and DADS, and what we don't use Precision, we actually use the new testing format, which is provided through Prometrics, which is a nationwide company. And so we've been using practice tests throughout the year for our CNA students, and so we're shooting for getting them certification dates in April, because they just have to maintain, they have to create a 40 hours of clinical site and then 60 hours of classroom. And so once they've completed those hours, then we can, our program can certify that they're complete and that they're able to test. So if they do need a retest, we can hopefully get them done. If they have to retest again, get them done in May, so before they graduate. So that's for our senior CNA students. So as far as I know, we don't use Precision for anything else. We have a kind of a small CTE program. This is our second year. So yes, so we've had some changes, but for us, that's kind of what we do.
Is anybody doing portfolios for students?
Yeah, we do, especially if we have students that are moving through the 4 years. So principles of health, then medical terminology, introduction to anatomy and physiology, health science theory, and then the advanced health science theory in the certification piece. We have them, I collect their work at the end of the year. We create a portfolio for them. So when they leave here with their certification and they go on to whatever healthcare profession they're interested in, they present that portfolio showing these are the clinical pieces that we did. This is the work-based theory that we did. This is where we volunteered in our local community. So it really does kind of propel them and make them head and shoulders above other applicants for nursing programs, radiology, dental tech, wherever they're going. We really do try to help them, you know, shine a light on their whole 4 years of what they did in our CTA program.
And I'm not sure if Tracy from Harlandale's here. I know she was on their committee and they were looking at if there was a way to use portfolios for the TIA. I don't know.
Yeah, if anybody's going to submit portfolios for the student growth measure, I would sure like to know, because what I want to know is how you're grading it. So how you're measuring it. And so if you're doing that, if you're going to submit that, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to me, I'd appreciate it.
David, I think that topic's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially going into next year when more districts try to add CTE. I do think that they were, in talking about the template that you use for the to show teacher growth, you know, that's maybe something we could put a committee together and, you know, maybe assign 5 points for a student that took an industry-based certification, 3 points for a student that participated in a CTSO, and maybe you could grade those students in kind of the same way that you do the teachers. You know, just kind of get in a brainstorming session, do that maybe. What else do people have?
Mark, I put in there, I was just curious if anybody is implementing common assessments for CTE. I think I remember sitting on a session with Aldine one year at CTAT, and I think they were in year maybe 1 or 2, but I'm just trying to get with some people who already have that in place.
And Tracy, do you mean per course?
Yes, sir.
Is anyone using anything for a common assessment other than precision exam?
And I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, I know some districts do like DBAs, like district benchmark assessments. I'm thinking more along the lines of that. And I don't know, I haven't dug into the TIA. Our district is exploring it, but I'm not sure where we are in the process. But I'm wondering if there's, you know, a connection between having an assessment for the courses and whether or not that could be used for student growth in the TIA. I don't know exactly what the rules are, but.
You know, one question I would have along those lines, and going that even Tracy goes back into what David was saying too. So every course, does every course need a test at the end of it to show student growth? I'm wondering how English does that, because you know you have EOCs for English 1 and 2, but you don't have EOCs for English 3 and 4. So how are the English 3 and 4 teachers going to show growth? How um, you know, just as an example. So I'm not sure it has to be a test at the end of it. Just a discussion point.
Yeah, Mark, it's our understanding that you don't have to have a test for every CT course. The teacher just has to have at least one course they're teaching that has a student growth measure in there. So it doesn't have to be every CT course, but for a teacher to be eligible, they have to at least teach one course that has that student growth measure built in, whether it's a SLO, portfolios, pre-post test, whatever. So that's our understanding. And the teacher has to have a state of Texas teaching certificate, which we have about 20 teachers that are district certified. So they are not eligible. A district certified teacher is not eligible. So, you know, as long as you have one course in there that teacher's teaching, then they can be eligible.
Well, that'd be an incentive for them to go ahead and finish their full certification, which would really benefit them in the long run, you would think. What other hot topics are on people's, Robin and I predicted this would be a pretty slow admin roundtable, but I certainly don't want someone to have a question that they need answered to get in there. Robin, go ahead. that one's yours in the chat.
Yeah, that's the yep, $1 million question right there. So I wish I had an answer for you definitively, but we really do want to huddle with the CTAP board of directors before making that decision. And what's more, if we are in person, we want to make sure that that everyone is aware of any safety protocols or lack thereof, exactly what it would look like, so that our folks are able to make informed decisions about whether they want to come in person or attend virtually. So we talked early on with the board about doing a survey the first part of April to see if just kind of test the waters to see if people were willing to come in person. But throughout this COVID journey, one thing I've learned is that a lot of things can change from one week to the next, and even more can change 2 weeks from now. So in between the last time we talked to the board and today, you know, we've had a couple significant things happen, you know, with the governor reopening Texas and repealing some of the safety requirements. That makes it more likely that the venues we have contracts with for summer conference will want to have whomever wants to come in person there. So so I think we're going to visit with the board on this and make sure we do the right thing for our folks. And even if it's in person, you know, hopefully we can have a virtual component for those who aren't able. But like I said, once that decision's made, we need a little bit of time to figure out exactly what in person would look like, so you can make a decision about attending. So.
Lori, I'm glad you put that in there. I was trying to figure out how to ask that question.
Ms. Risters, I assume you mean for students, right? Or students can go online and do virtual only? Before I jumped in there with both feet on CTE, I'd wait and see what the funding, if CTE courses like that are still going to be funded virtually. But it's good that some other folks are dipping their toe in it so the rest of us will know.
I find, or my thought on virtual for CTE, and I know that that TA says it's possible, and I know that, some schools have ventured that direction. I just feel like students lose so much from not having the hands-on aspect that we're really known for. So I have a concern with that. I mean, if it's possible where kids really can get immersed into it and figure out a way to really get that hands-on component, then I'd be more open to it, but I do have concerns about that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like maybe how some districts offer some programs at some schools and some at not, and maybe the virtual only offered certain programs of study.
It will be interesting to see if the schools keep, how much of the virtual component they keep after the crisis is over. And we'll just watch. And some of that, my guess is if it's not funded, districts usually shy away from it. So we'll watch how that impacts too. There is a question in the chat about biotech. Does anybody have a good biotech program that they can share with David?
Actually, I believe it's called, the official name is what, biomedical science? I believe that's what it's called. Anybody offering that?
David, are you talking about the one that's through Project Lead the Way?
Well, it could be, yes. Doesn't have to be, but just the bioscience pathway.
Oh, so yeah, Travis just put it in chat, but several of us in Central Texas use the Project Lead the Way biomedical science. So I know Sherry put in Round Rock does, Hayes does, Pflugerville does.
Thank you.
David, it looks like you got enough there to take a field trip.
I think I'm gonna take a field. I might make some calls and see if I can get on the road.
There you go. In all seriousness, I think that's one of the greatest benefits of our administrators being able to network is when you find out about a great program or a set of programs, then you can actually go visit those. And I know that everyone on here is really opens up their school and is willing to make the time for other administrators and other teams to come in and visit those program areas. So I encourage everyone that can to take advantage of that when you're looking at implementing new programs. Well, I don't want to cut everyone off here, but it's 3:16 and I'm sure you got plenty to do. And Robin, would you remind us another time, when was the last day for a bill filing?
Next week, Friday.
So next month at the April roundtable, then we're going to have a pretty good idea of what's out there and what's not in terms of legislation and the direction that it's heading. So that might be interesting. It may just stay right where it is. So if you guys, Miss Kay Johnson wished me a late happy birthday. I think she's doing that because she forgot completely yesterday. She might have been on the ball a little bit, but thank you, Miss Kay Johnson. All right, anyone else? Well, I'm going to stop recording. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for the input. And I know that you guys learned 10 times from each other what you would learn sitting in a class or something somewhere. So thank you all for being here and thank you all for working with each other. And I'm stopping the recording. See you next month.